in bad weather.
Will you pull me from the flames? Hold me till I feel no pain, and give me shelter from the rain. Forever, where can I find her?
She took the light and left me in the dark.
She left me with a broken heart. 'Cause I'm on my own. If anybody sees her, shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. If anybody sees her,
Tell me, can you hear my voice?
loud and clear above the noise. Even if I had the choice,
I would not give up. Where can I find her? She took the light and left me in the dark.
she left me with a broken heart.
Now I'm on my own.
If anybody sees her, shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. If anybody sees her, shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. If anybody sees her, she took the light and left me in the dark.
She left me with a broken heart. Now I'm on my own.
On my own. If anybody sees her, shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. If anybody sees her, shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. Shine a light on her. If anybody sees her.
Hello and welcome to Suffolk Community Foundation's Annual Review 2021.
Coming to you live from a state-of-the-art venue in Ipswich that houses our treasures for the past 900 years, The Hold.
So, to begin Suffolk Community Foundation's annual review, I'm delighted to welcome Suffolk Community Foundation's Chairman, George Vestey, and the Chief Executive, Stephen Singleton. George, can I start with you? Now, it hardly seems a year since we were doing this, actually, but it is a year since the last annual review. Could you give us a feeling of where things are now?
Well, a lot of water's gone under the bridge since we met 12 months ago, and in that time I think our focus has been on two main issues. Number one, dealing with the deeper rooted issues of the COVID pandemic, and secondly, starting the process of delivering on our hidden needs report, which highlighted long-term embedded deprivation in many parts of the county.
And what do you think is the most important component that, despite everything, you've managed to hang on to through the last year?
Well, the Suffolk Community Foundation has always been about partnership across the public, private and voluntary sectors. We convene and work with others to deliver solutions. And because we were well set up for that, our reaction to the pandemic was very rapid, and we were able to deliver immediate help into communities. So building on that partnership theme to deal with the longer term issues around COVID, and in particular to start the process of finding lasting solutions to the hidden needs issues that have been raised in our report. So partnership has been, the essential criteria.
And this is what will drive everything forward from here.
It drives everything forward because none of us can do things alone. We have to convene, collaborate, work together, and that is what our principal function is.
So with the right amount of positivity, which I know you have very much at the Foundation, big challenges can lead on to major opportunities. And what do you see as the most important opportunities going forward?
Well, I think during the pandemic, there was a major realization about the importance of local community. We all had a shared experience of how the pandemic affected us and our neighbours, and of our ability to do something about that. So local community, volunteering, helping neighbours, helping to find solutions and deliver solutions to those in need within our own local communities. So I think that's been the biggest plus, and I really hope that we can hang on to the positive energy created within local communities, and people recognising that don't rely on others from far away to order how your community exists. Be part of that process of finding and delivering solutions. So taking ownership and helping our wonderful voluntary sector across the county. And in order for that to work, our voluntary sector does need not only support in terms of time and effort, but also financial support. They have been through an extremely tough time. So giving locally in order to enable local decision making is absolutely vital.
George, thank you very much. So, Stephen, the energy is there, a positive attitude at the Foundation and in the county to keep things moving forward. But can you help us a little further to understand how serious the need is and what the key areas of concern are?
Well, you couldn't ask that on a better day. The BBC this morning spoke about the voluntary sector being overwhelmed this winter. And in fact, we've had 18 months of this. So we're seeing various things happen with the voluntary organisations in Suffolk. The first area is those that are large enough to have been able to provide services throughout the pandemic and post-pandemic and going into the winter. They've had really big challenges. Number one, they've lost a lot of volunteers. Number two, it's been almost impossible to fundraise. So the Foundation has come in and really supported them with emergency funding to help get through that with all the other funders around the country and around the county. For small organisations, they have actually had to furlough their services for greater parts because of social distancing. So it's been incredibly difficult for them. And again, I think we've played an important role in paying those small bills that go on whatever's happening and to keep them alive. And then at the third level, there's real challenges around organisations that are dealing with older people, particularly. So many services are delivered by older people for older people, such as luncheon clubs. And to date, very few of those have really got going again because of all the issues associated with that. And they've clearly lost volunteers as well in the process. So that's another real challenging area. It probably isn't all doom and gloom. George mentioned about community spirit and community reaction, and we're seeing lots of new organisations develop because people have had a taste of how they can help. They've remembered what it's like to help other people. So some of those voluntary structures that come together are now constituting themselves to carry on delivering services. So that's really positive.
What about mental health issues? Because there have been very worrying reports about what this has done, particularly to young people.
Yeah, there's been two really big spikes in our grant making, huge spikes. I don't want to use the epidemic word because we don't know the end of it. But one is around mental health, and it's really across all society. There's a lot of isolation going on for older people that maybe are retired, living alone. So that's equally problematic as it is for younger people. But talking about younger people, it is absolutely at levels never experienced before from our experience. So there's all sorts of ways that the voluntary sector are getting involved, which not necessarily a traditional counselling, they can be, but it's often getting them into the environment, it's trying to bring people together, it's creating forums for the young people to talk to each other. And we're also working with health bodies to actually try and raise awareness of how it manifests itself. So self-harming is a clear clue of much greater issues down the road. So that's one area. The other area is not receding at all is financial hardship. And so much of the grant making we are delivering, and I'm really pleased to say that this is in partnership with public sector organisations, is around hardship funding to individuals and to families and to older people. Later on we'll see Surviving Winter, where we are with that during the session today, but we are expecting unprecedented levels of people requesting support for fuel poverty, winter fuel poverty.
But perhaps with our shared experience of the pandemic, we have seen a sort of surge of goodwill, and as George has said, thinking local and whatever. So there are opportunities here, aren't there?
There are opportunities. There are really opportunities. Now, how do we cover a very broad sector and talk about those? I think let's talk about it from grassroots up. We need younger people to come through, and there's no doubt that the pandemic has brought neighbours together, younger people's, young mums, all working together. So actually we're breeding the next breed of philanthropists in all sorts of ways. So that's a real opportunity. I think also the need, well, the thing that's really happened is though the partnership working is absolutely fundamental for the foundation, because we are connecting those that have financial resource with those that need it. It's in our DNA. But what we've really seen happen is all organisations are working together at a level that we've not seen before. The barriers between public sector and voluntary sector, not just one organisation to another, but whole groups of organisations working together to tackle the most pressing causes, are beginning to happen. And I can't see them receding at all. I think we're on a journey now. So I'm optimistic that at that level that there's going to be a positive out of the pandemic. And we must remember that there were big social problems before we went through that. And those social problems, as George has alluded to, are still there, and it's going to need partnership working. That's the opportunity.
For those of you who are familiar with Suffolk Community Foundation, you probably already know something about the Surviving Winter appeal. This is the moment each year when the foundation and its partners don their scarves and bang the drum to deliver a very simple message, which is this. If you don't need your winter fuel payment that you get from the government, please, will you donate it to somebody else in Suffolk who really does? The Surviving Winter Appeal is a brilliant mechanism that makes all this happen. Let's find out more about this year's appeal from Tim and the Suffolk Surviving Winter Partnership team.
So welcome to the first of our On the Sofa conversations at the annual review this year, here in the wonderful library at the Hold in Ipswich. I'm delighted to be joined by our Surviving Winter Suffolk Partnership team. My colleague, Michael Atwood, who is Head of Public Sector Partnerships at Suffolk Community Foundation, Gary Crockett, who is Health and Independence Manager for Warm Homes Healthy People, and Nikki Wilshire, Chief Executive of Citizens Advice in Ipswich. Now, Michael, if I can come to you first, can you just explain, why does Suffolk need a Surviving Winter Appeal every year?
So Suffolk needs a Surviving Winter Appeal every year because we know from government research that in excess of 34,000 households across the county are in fuel poverty, and that figure also shows that in Ipswich it's ranked the 24th most affected for fuel poverty out of 312 local authorities across England.
24 out of 312 across the country.
In the top 10%. And obviously that combined with the increase in fuel prices, the increase in general inflation at the moment as well, it just means that household income is coming under more pressure now than it probably ever has.
So actually, this is a perfect storm. We are coming into a winter this year that potentially for people who are struggling in Suffolk is worse than ever. And I think our two colleagues have joined us today. Nikki, if I can come to you first. You are there with your team when the phone rings and when somebody who is desperately in need of help picks up. And what are they saying to you? What are the challenges that you're facing?
We're talking to some very, very worried people. Their incomes are minimal. There's been a big impact over the last 18 months with restrictions and furlough, etc. Debts have built up. They've got limited amount of income coming in. They're really worried about fuel prices that are increasing. We get phone calls way before the start of Surviving Winter asking if we're going to be running it again this year and do they qualify, because they're really concerned about having the heating on and making that decision between heating and eating.
So in Suffolk, one of the wealthiest counties in the country, we have people that are making the decision in the winter months to either have a meal or go cold.
Absolutely.
And Gary, you are there with your team going into those homes and seeing the living conditions and seeing just how cold they are. What are you finding?
We do visits all across Suffolk, and I think the average person would be shocked the conditions that some of our most vulnerable residents are living in. Some people haven't had heat in 10 years, their boiler's been broken, they're using an oven to heat their home which has a fire hazard. And I saw a lady a few weeks ago who's using a kettle as her boiler. That was the only way she could heat her home. So I think the average person would be shocked.
They would. Michael, when we look at the Surviving Winter appeal every year, this is a decade I think Suffolk has been running the appeal. It's true to say that with our partners, we do not rest on our laurels. We look at how we can do things differently and how we can do things better. Usually during the summer months, actually, when people are not thinking about Surviving Winter. So what has happened this summer and what have we done to inform and improve this year's appeal?
Well, I think uniquely this year we've been able to kickstart our efforts. We've started planning for this year's campaign much earlier than we would normally do, which has been brilliant. And that's enabled us to take some more time really to analyse the data collected from the beneficiaries of last year's appeal. Immediately after looking at that, we were able to see that the vast majority of the beneficiaries were people that had received support in previous years. So we became really aware then that there was something that was needed to be done differently so that these people, rather than be dependent on Surviving Winter each year, can be lifted out of poverty in a more sustainable, longer lasting way.
What are the sorts of things that we've actually now able to identify, Nikki?
So what we've been doing is an income maximisation assessment with individuals, looking at what income they've got in the first place, the amount of people that haven't actually got all of the benefits that they're entitled to and didn't realise that they were entitled to. We're also looking at what they're spending their money on. Where's it all going? And looking at things, for example, people not understanding that they could be on better tariffs, not so much with the energy companies these days, but with their water light, broadband, social broadband tariffs, and through the sample that we've worked with, we've managed to save on average £736 per household.
Wow, £736. That's a lot of money, and that the Surviving Winter group money is on top of that. And Gary, you've been out with your team conducting home surveys, which have also delivered some savings, I think.
They have. So Nikki's team is all about maximising income. Our team is all about reducing energy expenditure, and we can do that by providing draft proofing and insulation. And we are able to help with 50% of cases that we surveyed, and they got a loft insulation and draft proofing, and we think that saves around £150 a year. So that's in addition to the Surviving Winter fuel payment.
And decreases their carbon
and
footprint
decreases
as well.
carbon, yeah.
So Michael, the score's on the doors for this. It looks like now, how much do we think we've benefited each individual person that was supported?
We think that as a result of the pilot and the new ways of working, that we will have achieved an average household benefit of around £1,000, which is fantastic.
I mean, that is a huge amount of money, isn't it? From a surviving winter grant to all of that. And of course, it's not just for this year. Many of those improvements and those savings will have a continuing impact, won't they, going forward? So now we're here, we're entering the winter again, and we're taking a different approach altogether, Michael.
We are.
Going forward. So just sum up what the new approach
So
is.
the new approach really is to take more of a preventative approach, to be able to work with households to increase their disposable income, to leave them in a position where they're less dependent on surviving winter year after year, and so that basically they're more resilient as a unit, as a household going forwards. And that means the following year we can then support different people, so that over time we're actually having a far greater reach and impact.
So surviving winter isn't a sticking plaster, it is a long-term sustainable improvement to somebody's life. Amazing. We need your help, we need your support, and you can see what an incredible difference this team is making to vulnerable people's lives here in Suffolk. Thank you.
What a really lovely space has been created at The Hold, and I'm now standing in a particularly special corner which has been dedicated to the Suffolk Medal. Created for Suffolk in 2019, the Suffolk Medal is the highest honour that our county can bestow on one of its own. Here at The Hold, you can see the incredibly beautiful medal created by Suffolk's greatest living artist, Maggie Hambling. It's the people of Suffolk who are invited to suggest future medal recipients. To find out more about the medal criteria and how to make a nomination, please visit the website thesuffolkmedal.org.uk.
So Michael, we've already had a conversation earlier on in the review about surviving winter. So this is the opportunity to explain a little bit more about how important the relationship is between Suffolk Community Foundation and the public sector. Perhaps you could just explain why it's so crucial to what we do.
Sure. Quite often there are really strong synergies between the activity that the foundation wants to undertake and those of our statutory sector partners. We know also that, as is always the case, the more people and resources that you can bring around the table, particularly when you're grappling with really complex issues, the better. So the more the merrier, really.
Perhaps what have been the real highlights? Because we've been in an emergency situation and we've also been trying to hold on and deliver those longer term projects. So tell us a little bit about some of the exciting projects that have been going on.
Yeah, so obviously it's been an incredibly busy year, and now we're moving increasingly away from COVID and looking at some of the issues that existed prior to the pandemic. You'll hear a bit later from Andrea regarding the Youth Intervention Fund, but we've also been really active in the mental health space. So working with colleagues within the CCGs, we've been looking at developing greater support for men's mental health and suicide prevention. And we've also launched a really innovative new programme called Equity in Mind, which again is a mental health related programme.
What's that programme been addressing? Give us a little flavour of it.
So Equity in Mind is it's all about looking at ways that the statutory sector and the voluntary sector can work better together to achieve outcomes for those with severe mental ill health.
And how did it come about? Where did the idea come from?
So the idea came about, as always, through conversation and relationships, through our previous activity where we'd been funding projects around lower level mental health needs. It became apparent that the voluntary sector has got a really strong role and potential role going forwards within the more moderate to severe mental ill health space. And so we looked at what gaps there were in provision and where there might be some real opportunities for a new programme to make a difference. I think that there's a number of different things that makes it quite unique, really. So firstly, the fact that it's a true partnership, so it involves greater collaboration between the voluntary sector and our partners from across the health space. It's looking at more severe mental health needs, which previously there hadn't been as much support available within the sector. And also it's looking at targeting demographics in a much more defined way, where we know, for example, that people who are more elderly might not have the level of support in the community that they need. So the programme is looking at their needs as well.
So perhaps with no further ado, we'll go over and have a look at the Equity in Mind film.
So my name's Jason Joseph. I'm a transformation lead at Suffolk and North East Essex CCGs, looking at mental health, learning disability and autism. So the ambition behind Equity in Mind was to try and create a suite of projects where we could work with diverse communities, support older people in the community and people with serious mental health need. The idea really was to reach out to local community groups and start some projects that could really help people feel connected in their local communities. So we decided to work with the Community Foundation because of their knowledge and experience in this field. As a CCG, we have found it difficult to reach out to local communities, but the Foundation really sold the benefit of the projects they've worked with previously, and we're confident they could get this money out to the groups that we really needed to fund. It's great to be here at this project at Burlington Baptist Church with Inside Out, but we have 5 other projects across Suffolk. So we looked at Gatehouse in West Suffolk that are doing some counselling support for older people with mental health needs.
My name's Adele Pacini. I'm a clinical psychologist and mindfulness teacher, and I've been brought into the team at Gatehouse to help deliver this project. It first started as a face-to-face group to be delivered throughout Suffolk, but obviously with the lockdown restrictions we had to move it online. And I think what's been quite striking about this project is how much it's supported people when they're isolated due to COVID. So what we found is that it's helped people's mental health, it's helped their resilience, it's helped to lower their stress levels. And the remarkable thing about that is that it's helped people despite all the restrictions due to COVID. So in fact, a lot of people that attended our courses were actually able to improve their mental health despite the lockdown restrictions. And this new Equity in Mind project follows on directly from that work in delivering the online mindfulness courses to older adults throughout Suffolk.
We've got a project in West Suffolk with CAB. So we all know that Citizens Advice Bureau offer financial advice to people. They told us that actually people with mental health need sometimes struggle.
Our team supports people with poor mental health but also with mental illnesses such as depression, personality disorders and schizophrenia. We're passionate about helping them to develop the skills they need to tackle the issues that have become obstacles to their recovery.
So with Homestart Suffolk, who are going to reach out and diversify their workforce to include more people from Eastern European descent, what that's going to do is bring more families and more support to families in Suffolk and help them with their young people, and also help them themselves to be able to cope with bringing up young people and manage their own mental health and the mental health of their children. We also have Phoebe, which is a project really close to my heart that looks to support young black women and their families and their mental health. And again, it's not about overtly talking about their mental health needs, but it's about support and encouraging young people to talk up about the problems they're facing. What Phoebe will do is support them and encourage them to reach out to statutory support, get them to talk to their GPs and to mental health services as well. We've got a fantastic partnership project with Volunteering Matters, working with survivors in transition, health outreach and 4YP. That project supports older people from BME backgrounds to tell their stories to young people, and again supports those young people to reach out to organisations that can help them with their mental health and well-being. Really happy to be here at Burlington Road Baptist Church to look at the project that Inside Out have developed with Caribou Women's Group. What struck us about their application was their excitement of diversifying their offer to more diverse communities, to older people, and they're inclusive. So it's not just about people with serious mental health need, older people or people from diverse backgrounds, it's open to everybody.
Inside Out Community is a local charity that works with members of local community, and we set out to provide artistic workshops for well-being and mental health. So we are working with Caribou and started a series of collaborative workshops that are for their own members, and the idea is to spread art and the kind of therapeutic benefits of art to other communities, especially ethnically diverse communities and culturally diverse communities.
It's all part of the camaraderie and having a creativity and a good time, and being totally relaxed and feeling at ease, and working together as a team and a collective.
We've been coming to this group for so long time, and even when it is time for us to go, they have to gear me up because it motivates them. It made them, they feel it's so therapeutic, makes them happy. They spend time with others, having relationship with others, like having people to talk to, people to spend time with.
It makes me, my mind to be relaxed. You know, when you do this kind of a thing, you don't think of something else anymore. You just keep focusing, how can I get it done better? How can I make it better? So your mind is relaxed and more focused.
Since I've been coming, I've met new people. Yes, new people. And I love coming. And it generally gets me out the house.
So this is the start of a journey with equity in mind. It's a landmark really for us in the CCG. We're able to reach out to communities through Suffolk Community Foundation, but we want to do more. We want to learn from the experience that these projects have given us and develop greater partnerships in the community at a local level. And it's an opportunity for other people to get involved. So we'd like to involve the County Council, people with private funding or other funding to get involved in these projects and grow them. And we'd like to see this as a legacy in Suffolk. So we have communities supporting people with mental health need and their well-being in the future.
Before we go on to our next On the Sofa conversation, we'd like to draw your attention to a new book that has been written by the Foundation's youngest philanthropist and fund holder, at just 22 years of age, May de la Rue. Written and published in partnership with her father Colin, the book, entitled 50 Miles with My Dad, tells the tale of a physical and emotional journey that they made on foot together along the beautiful Suffolk coast.
Now, the book is a fantastic, entertaining and inspiring read, and we're so grateful that all the proceeds from the sale of the book will be attributed to the De La Rue Family Fund at Suffolk Community Foundation. It will enable it to grow, and it will enable May and her family in future generations to provide even more vital funding to supporting those in need in Suffolk. Fantastic. Well, welcome back into the magnificent library here at the Hold for our On the Sofa conversation about professional advisors. I'm delighted to welcome three guests. Louise Long, Partner and Head of Private Client Advisory at Burkitt's LLP, and Colin Lowe, Managing Director and Chartered Financial Planner at Kingsfleet Wealth. And also a new member of our team who has joined us just in the last few months as Head of Private Client Relationship Management, and that is Henry Tapp. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome today. Henry, we use this term, professional advisors, and I think it only makes sense really to the Community Foundation world. Can you just tell us, what is a professional? Who are professional advisors?
Yeah, so professional advisors are trusted advisors of clients who have their ear, essentially. So we often use examples like solicitors, accountants, wealth managers, investment managers, tax managers, and they're really, really well placed to have those philanthropic discussions with their clients. Often they're talking about gifts to charity and where to best give those gifts and give that money. And we've got two great examples of professional advisors here today.
Louise, I know as a partner of Burkitt's, the Burkitt's Fund, which is one of the oldest funds that we have at the Community Foundation, one of the longest standing, all of the partners at Burkitt's actually put their money in each year to that fund.
We do.
And the money is actually spent by your team through grant making. So how does that work, and how does that feel for you as somebody who is actually putting your own money into the pot?
It feels really good. And what feels really good is that we then don't make the decision. We encourage the people that work with us to look for ways to spend it with you. And so it brings everybody on board and gets everybody involved and makes us more of a community within Burkitts.
And Colin, I know your fund was set up with really quite a personal background to you, I think, supporting education and based on the school, I think, that you went to.
Yeah, my primary school, yeah.
And how important is the fund to you?
Well, one of the core things for us is not just delivering a service to clients and making profit, but it's also delivering something for the benefit of the community. So to be able to base something that runs alongside the business to give back in the sense of supporting educational causes around Suffolk is marvellous.
Can you just tell me a little bit about how it feels to support local organisations and the journey that you've been on with the foundation?
So I suppose the first thing is it's been incredible just to realise how small gifts make a huge difference to community groups. Incredible. So we've been able to go out and see some of the arrangements we've supported, see where the money's gone, see how people benefit. And instead of it just literally being a payment from a bank account, instead we're actually able to see real people making real difference.
Professional advisors are so well placed to have this philanthropic conversation with their clients. So many clients come to them scratching their heads about charitable giving. So many people want to do that, but they don't know what the landscape's like, and they want to see the end product of their gift.
And Louise, just tell us a little bit about a lady that visited you and asked you quite an extraordinary question, one of your clients.
So I'd been working with her for a long time. She was a Suffolk lady, single, and lived all her life in Suffolk, and had worked throughout with young people. And later on in her life, she suddenly became the owner of a substantial sum of money, unexpectedly so. And so for her, she was just the caretaker of that money. She would never have spent it on herself. She had everything that she needed. And so she came to talk to me about how she could best benefit the people in Suffolk with this money.
Your role was really quite fundamental, wasn't it?
It really was. It was, it was a privilege. It was an absolute privilege, Tim, because she was single. She kept herself to herself. I think, I'm only saying what she would say. And she had lived quite a solitary life, and that's how she wanted it. But she relied on her professional advisors to give her the guidance and steer that perhaps other people might ask family or friends. She needed her trusted advisor, as she saw me, to give her that steer. And I didn't have to justify it or anything. Once I said it, that was where she wanted to go. And I knew that the Suffolk Community Foundation would do exactly what she needed, which would involve her, and she would be able to see where her money was going.
You know this community inside out, the lawyers, the accountants, the tax specialists, the wealth managers. If I come to you first, Colin, what would you say about choosing to have a conversation with the foundation?
I would leave two words with you, and that is water fountains. I would just suggest that when you walk around the towns of this country, you will see, left in place by successful business people of the Victorian era, philanthropic gifts of water fountains for people who didn't have what they had. And that was their legacy. And I think using the Community Foundation for grant-making funds is a superb opportunity to create your legacy as a business.
I think it was one of the most fulfilling things that in a career spanning 32 years I've been able to do, because that particular client, it gave her so much joy. And when are we able to give joy to our client? By making an introduction. The rest of her life working with you gave her a purpose and a joy, and the contentment to know that she was doing the right thing with her money. So I would say, why wouldn't you get involved?
With the aim of helping Suffolk to recover, reset and recharge our lives post-pandemic, Suffolk Community Foundation are proud partners in a county-wide initiative to celebrate the Festival of Suffolk 2022. Inspired and led by our Lord Lieutenant, Claire Countess of Euston, and to be celebrated at the time of Her Majesty the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, the festival will bring together all people and communities in joyful celebration and create a powerful legacy. Together, we'll have the opportunity to celebrate our rich and diverse heritage, increase the visibility of the county, and improve local lives for many years to come.
And we'll be focusing on themes including community health and well-being, opportunity and education, the environment, culture and tourism, and enterprise. And this festival really is being created by Suffolk for Suffolk from the grassroots up. There will be headline projects and events, the Queen's Green Canopy, the Festival of the Sea, the Youth Games, a Business Expo, a large concert at the end of the festival. But we'll also be focusing on partnering with existing events, raising their profile and helping them to come back to life post-pandemic, even bigger and stronger than before.
But perhaps most importantly of all, the festival encourages the creation of unique celebrations of all kinds at the most local level where you live. To find out more and how to get involved, please visit the Festival of Suffolk website.
So now it's my absolute privilege to introduce you to the leader of the engine room of our foundation, the grants team. Please welcome Andrea Pittock, our head of grant programmes. Andrea.
Thank you, Tim. Hello.
One of the real groups of people that have suffered perhaps most during the pandemic and were already challenged before were our young people. So perhaps we'll take some time now to talk about them and talk about the wonderful work that's going on there.
Yes, definitely. I think it's worth going back to the Suffolk Community Foundation's Hidden Needs report, and that's already informed us of the challenges that our young people face in Suffolk. Deprivation levels are shockingly high, up to 30% in areas such as Lower Stoft, Mildenhall, Ipswich, Haverhill. And the challenges they face are things like poor aspirations, equality to access services, and the rural county just brings additional obstacles to them. We also know that these challenges have been there for some time, for generations, and that across Suffolk now, all stakeholders must come together to offer some long-term strategy to really change this.
And we hear this an awful lot, but it's certainly true with young people, isn't it, that the pandemic has made what was already a really difficult situation so much worse.
Absolutely. Even before the pandemic, mental health and well-being was an issue amongst our young people. There were issues with isolation, knife crime, exploitation, addiction, and we were already making steps forward in actually changing that with our Youth Intervention Fund to provide safe spaces for young people. They actually told us that was a priority for them.
Yeah, this is a long-term solution that requires long-term sustainable funding.
Definitely. And thanks to the continued support of our Police and Crime Commissioner and our new funders to the Youth Intervention Fund, Suffolk County Council, and of course our loyal private donors, large and small. And it's really important to understand that from £500 to £35,000, every penny makes a difference.
Haven't we just made an amazing round of grants? Just literally the other day, wasn't it?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. Over £236,000 in grants were awarded. And they reached areas Newmarket, Brandon, Ipswich, Alderton, Grunsborough, places that you don't always think that we get to. But we've been supporting projects as diverse as eating disorders, mentoring, volunteering, safe spaces, counselling.
But also, in addition to focusing on projects that are more to do with the teenage years, the Hidden Needs report and the situation around us has really driven us to actually look at solutions much earlier from parenting and before birth.
Absolutely, and the severity of the situation has been heightened by COVID, isolation, new parents, lack of access to services, a decline in general mental health, lack of peer support, lockdown babies that haven't been able to integrate into our community. So it's really, really important that strategically we look at an early intervention, earlier, as you say, than teenage years.
So we have this really exciting new project called Growing Minds, which actually is delivering support pre-birth with parenting, but also up to school age. So now, let's hear about a brand new project called Growing Minds. We're going to see a new animation now and hear from some of our partners who are making this project happen.
Lots of young children have parents that read to them, who give them good food and a calm and happy home. Some little ones have less luck.
their parents might struggle more. They might have been moved around a lot, and they may have not been read to very much before starting school. So from their first day, they're starting from a different place. They can be 5.5 months behind the average child. It's hard to catch up, and those that struggle early tend to struggle throughout their education. So the gap grows. By the time they're 16, they're 21.5 months behind their peers. This matters in lots of areas of their life. The good news is we can change it. Research shows that improving the home environment in a child's early years can make a big difference. Imagine a world where children are being raised by their parents but with extra skills, knowledge and resources. A Suffolk where all little ones start school from the same place. That's exactly what Suffolk Community Foundation's Growing Minds project is designed to do. We've teamed up with the tried and tested Imagination Library, Homestart Mid and West Suffolk, Suffolk Libraries and UK Babies to offer a programme that starts pre-birth and runs until school. UK Babies, who work with expectant mothers through their antenatal support, will refer mothers and families across to Homestart Mid and West Suffolk, who will support families in their own homes and promote a range of other local services. There will be targeted peak groups to help preschoolers and their families prepare for school. Referrals will be made across to Suffolk Libraries, who are the host to the Imagination Library, who will provide an age-appropriate book every month to each family until their child turns 5. Together, these integrated programmes have a greater impact than they would do alone. We will run the scheme initially in the St Olaf's ward of Bury St Edmunds, with the potential to roll it out to other areas across Suffolk. Where we operate, we'll offer the programme to all families in the designated 0 to 5 age range. We will work with the local schools, health visitors, children's centres and family hubs to make it happen. The programme will run over 7 years, so we can really measure the long-term effects. Suffolk Growing Minds shows how an evidence-based collaboration can create huge impact. A better start and a better experience of education leads to happier, healthier and more capable young adults for this generation and the next. Join our growing group of Growing Minds funders. Donate now.
And what's really great now is that we have a number of partners who are part of the Growing Minds programme joining us on good old Zoom right now. Hello everyone.
Hi. Hi.
Perhaps if we could just start by you all introducing yourselves and giving us just a quick indication of what you're bringing to the Growing Minds programme as an organisation. Let's start with you, Amanda.
Hi, my name's Amanda Jakes and I'm the Homestart scheme manager for Homestart in Mid and West Suffolk, and we'll be bringing to the project home visiting, running PEEP groups and listening to what the parents actually want.
Fantastic. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Longley. I'm the Wellbeing Manager for Suffolk Libraries. We will be running the Imagination Library, which is free books for families, and also access to our Me, Myself and Baby project, which provides support for perinatal mental health for parents.
Let's give the boys a chance. What about Richard Keeble? Tell us what you're up to.
Hi, my name's Rich and I lead Epic Dad, which is a community interest company, and we're focused on supporting fathers, father figures and families. And I'm really looking forward to working in the project to help new dads as they start their fatherhood journey, coming alongside them, offering one-to-one support, also parenting courses and some fun dads and children's activities.
Brilliant. What about you, Mel?
Hi, my name is Mel Lewis and I'm the director of UK Babies. We're a community interest company providing perinatal support services. As part of the Growing Minds project, we are providing antenatal education to enable families to feel confident and empowered as they go through their pregnancy and into labour and birth. And we will be ensuring that families during their pregnancy have access to antenatal yoga as well to help with health and well-being, and referring these families on to the other partners that we've just heard from as well to enhance the programme.
And I think, Paddy, if I come to you last, you have a slightly different role in this programme. Just tell us briefly who you are and why you're involved.
Thank you very much. Yes, slightly different. Paddy Radcliffe from Our Common Good. We initiated the original iteration of Growing Minds in Oxfordshire, both through funding and development. Have been in conversation with Suffolk Community Foundation through the development of Growing Minds in Suffolk, and will provide ongoing support along with funding as it develops over the coming weeks, months and years, hopefully.
Oh, fantastic. I think just to round this little section off, and we look forward to coming back and finding out exactly, what has been achieved in the coming months. But Amanda, perhaps you could just sign off from the group and just tell us, what the hopes and dreams are for this project. What are we hoping to achieve overall?
Well, what we're hoping is to engage the parents so that we can actually support them in school readiness and in parenting, and then reducing isolation as well, and making friendships along the way so they don't actually feel so isolated.
That's fantastic. It's so exciting. It's so great to meet you all. And we really look forward to following your progress. Thank you ever so much. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So, Andrea, what an exciting project Growing Minds is. And we just look forward to seeing how it progresses. But today we're stood here delivering our annual review, and there are hundreds of people out there watching. And what do you need to say to them right now?
So remember the statistics, 30% of children living in deprivation across Suffolk. For long-term strategy, we need long-term sustainable funding. We work with trusts, foundations, public, private sector and private donors. Anybody that wants to give, anybody that wants to find out more, just give me a call, please.
And now, before we reach the end of our broadcast, let's leave the final words to the chairman of Suffolk Community Foundation, George Vestey.
Over the last 45 minutes, we've heard some amazing, inspiring local stories about what people across Suffolk are doing to help support their community. It is humbling to hear and to witness many of these stories that happen on a regular basis through my involvement with the Community Foundation. So it's my opportunity now to thank our partners for all that they are doing to make our county a better place. And I should also thank the team within the Suffolk Community Foundation for their energy, creativity, passion and sheer hard work in order to bring partners together and find solutions for the county. I'd also like to thank our trustees, patrons, volunteers, and in particular to say how grateful we are to our donors across the public sector, the private sector, and through foundations and other trusts for the financial support that you give us that help us to find the necessary solutions for the county. It is absolutely vital that we keep that passion and energy going because, as the Hidden Needs report has demonstrated, we have deep-rooted, long-term issues that we have to confront across the county. It is a long process that we are involved in, which is going to require long-term support across the county. So do please consider how you might be able to support the Suffolk Community Foundation in our efforts to make Suffolk a better place. Thank you.